when I'm over here, I can see things I can't see in the other place. It's amazing how you become a creature of habit and see everything from a certain spot. Okay, right here. Back foot. Has a lot of guard hairs and no undercoat. I'm definitely going to use a comb because it'll pull it up from between the feet, between the toes, I should say. Now, I come straight down at the front, go straight across, straight down on the sides. Makes a difference. And then I take the top off too, and when this falls down, you will have that angle. If you can comb it down, you can kind of see it. Stand. Okay, then come in underneath. Make sure you get all that extra. Stop. Grooming is never to be done by braille. I will tell you that right now. If you can't see it, don't cut it. This should be a cat foot. A hare foot is an oval shape, and a cat foot is a very short-toed, blunter shape. Almost round, but not quite. Since short toes are very desirable, if you flatten it in the front, they look even shorter. And then always comb and cut a second time. Never just cut once or comb once, because your scissor will make the hair lay down. So you have to comb it back up again, make sure you have everything even when you're done. There are a few things I'd like to say about scissoring. The first thing is how to hold a pair of scissors. These are barber shears. All the things you use on dogs are a type of barber shear, and they should be held with the thumb and the fourth finger, with the little finger on the rest and 2 fingers on the shaft. When you want to do a very smooth, even cut, you don't want to do it with your wrist. You want to hold your scissors steady and move your arm. That will give you the smoothest, most even cut you can get. Anything like this, you will have holes. Scissors should always be held light. Somebody should be able to pull it out of your hand or knock it out of your hand at any time. If you're really powering down on it, you're going to be shaking the scissor. It's not going to give you a smooth, even cut. Your scissors should have a very free, easy action. You move it with your arm, and you open and close it with your thumb.
Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate a situation where if you have a dog that doesn't have a lot of hair, that makes it a little bit easier. Unfortunately, this dog's got some great hair on here. Let them stand the way they're going to stand, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these thinning shears and I'm going to go straight up and down on the front and make a box. That's at the front of that foot right there. Then I'm going to come over to this side. I'm going to comb everything over, See right here, there's kind of a hole right there. So this will prevent any of that stuff from happening. Then I'm going to go straight up and down here. Then I'm going to flip these shears so the bezel is on the other side and go straight up and down here. Now by making that square, what will happen is when we come in with our comb and bring this up, that actually makes this a perfectly round foot. Then, since this is supposed to be a cat foot, it doesn't come just straight up like a hare foot. It's going to come back like this. So I'm going to just tip these tops. And so effortlessly, you get this absolute beautiful cat foot here. Because now the foot comes up and it comes back down. If you look at a cat's foot, or if you don't know what a cat's foot looks like, buy a cat. Or go find somebody with a cat. But if you tip these back parts right here, then this will come into a perfect cat's foot, and then you just let that drop down. And when they stand up, perfect every single time. And it's so simple. Again, all you have to do is make a front cut there, make a box, your shears are straight up and down here, make a box, your shears are straight up and down here, and when you do that and flip that up, it makes a perfect cat foot every single time with no guesswork. Now I do like the fact that with the curved shears, where you can come in and just go like that and make a perfect foot, but if you don't have a lot of hair to do that, sometimes it's a lot easier to do this with the thinning shear. And then you can just take any of these edges off right here. And if you're newer at trimming feet, a lot of times using the thinning shear, it's a lot more forgiving. Like with this particular thinner here, it is so forgiving. It just barely takes any hair whatsoever. So you can come in and just really super fine tune that foot right there.
Okay. Next thing we're going to go on to is the hocks. I don't care how far you put this foot on the back of the table, you're never going to get under here to this pad to not make it look flat-footed. So the only way to do it is to teach your dog to let you hold his foot up, knuckles into the pad, and scissor across this way. And if you hold it right on your knuckles on the pad, it'll make a very smooth cut across there. Now all I've taken is the bottom. I haven't taken the sides yet. That's why it still looks flat. But you can see how that now doesn't look flat-footed. It starts to curve up from the bottom. Now the rest of the foot I'm going to do with the thinning shears. Because we found it, we first started to do it with straight scissors, but it just works better with a blender. I want two parallel lines, the width of the foot. The width of the foot at the widest part. And this is the standard Newfoundland hock. There are some other fancier ones you can do, but you need a dog with a lot of coat to do it. You could do it with this one, in that they leave the foot wider and they make that hock look much bigger. But by and large, you got to find the amount of hair up here, right above the hock, is going to tell you how much length you can leave on a hock. You don't want this to look small, so if it does, now you look like a Minnie Mouse footgear. So however much you have up here tells you how long you can leave it down there. Stop it. Oh, he's gonna be a... I gotta go to the other side now. Now notice I haven't done anything to the back yet. I've just doing the sides. Do not ever stand directly behind a dog when you're cutting his feet. They kick like mules. I've been knocked out by a dog before, being kicked. So I always stand off to the side. My favorite position is actually to stand over the hock and cut down this way so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, and you always want to keep popping the fur like that. That will show you exactly how it's going to be in the ring when the dog is moving. When you pop a coat like this, you will see every imperfection, and it'll open it up and enable you to fix it. So the coat will lie perfectly smoothly. When this dog moves, this coat's going to pop up just like this, and you're going to see all these marks unless you take them out. It takes a little time, but you will be well rewarded when you see your dog in the ring. Now, when I stand behind this dog, and you can stand behind them when you aren't trimming their feet, I want to see a nice, smooth line. Usually a Newf will grow a bit of extra coat right in here, and we usually round that down. Riker doesn't appear to have any. But you don't want to see fenders. You want to see a nice rounding down to the sides. And if you step behind the dog, you can see how smooth this line is going down to the foot. So when you stack a dog properly, and he doesn't have his feet together, makes a nice line. Okay, now we need to work on the front. So you comb it down from the inside. Now, if you have a dog that's really long in the body, you can actually comb it forward and shorten the back of the dog that way, so that it, if I can pull this forward, so that now the back stopped here instead of here. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is pop this. What you want is a line from the elbow down to the widest part of the foot. Straight line. You don't want any of this sticking out, because when they move, it's going to open up like this and fly. And the judge is only going to see that, and he's going to think it's leg, because they move pretty fast. Cut down. And pop. It doesn't hurt to walk around front too to see what kind of a line you're making, because frequently from the side you'll bow it. That is the best popping comb I have ever had.
Thank you.
I love that. And that is, you know, if there is such a thing as a secret to Newfoundland grooming or dog grooming, it's popping.
Yep. There are many combs that look alike, and when I put that in somebody's hand and they like their comb, they fall in love with this one.
This one's not too heavy. It's got a good, it just got about the right weight to it. It's got a good balance to it. It's not heavy on one end or the other. I like it in the points. They go right in, which is what you have to have. Otherwise, you're never going to get to the skin on one of these hairy dogs. I think people design grooming equipment for the generic dog, which probably doesn't have a big coat, and for beginners who would probably push it against the skin and rake the skin. And
See, when I designed that comb, it was from a handler's perspective and
absolutely,
to be a useful tool.
and it is. Absolutely, I love it. Also adds an extra foot to your reach.
One of the things I really love about your grooming is that when I see a lot of other people grooming, the hair back there, they groom it as furnishings. But when you groom, it looks like a leg.
Well, that's what I'm trying to show, a leg. That's what the judge wants to see, is a leg. What you're truthfully trying to do when you groom a Newfoundland, you can really put it into one sentence. You're trying to show the structure underneath here through the hair. And that makes a natural looking dog. You know, dogs grow coats in odd places. Sometimes they grow long stuff with it extra long or something. And I've seen Newfs that can grow belly hair all the way to the ground. That doesn't do much for showing legs. That was a Spanish dog. And he was beautiful, and his owner loved the hair. But when we brought him to this country to show him, we cut it back and made it look properly proportional.
What is one of the biggest mistakes that you see out there with people grooming Newfoundlands?
Well, one of them is making a straight line under the belly. Dogs really don't have a whole lot of straight lines on them. What this is you feel rib cage, you feel loin. So it's rib cage, loin. You want to follow that natural line underneath. So that's what you really want to show with the dog. The other thing is when they first start, they don't show parts of the dog. What they do is they just kind of groom this round watermelon shape and put it on feet, and that's what they show. What you actually have to show every part of the dog. I want to show a shoulder. I want to show the full length of the leg by taking this in. I want to show the proper shape underneath. And I want to show that this dog has beautiful straight legs. The first thing you have to learn is disrespect the hair. You worked so long to grow every hair on that dog's body, you don't want to cut it off. Well, it looks better when some of it's cut off. Even dogs without a lot of hair look better when it's shaped. If you take off the long strings on the outside, your eye stops right at the edge of the fur, and it looks like it has a lot more fur than if you have these strings and your eye is looking in and saying, oh yeah, the dog's way in there somewhere. This is probably the hardest spot on the dog to groom, to make it smooth and even. Takes a lot of time and a lot of popping.
So sometimes if they're using a comb that doesn't pop as well as that, and their grooming job is not as, doesn't have that finished look to
No.
it may not necessarily be them, it's the tools that they're using.
That's true. If you use a comb that won't go into the fur, what happens is you smash the fur. And then now you've made your own hole. So you groom that straight, but now you've groomed a hole in the dog. You don't want to do that. You want each hair straightened, separated, and laying as it naturally would lay on the dog. I like to sit when I do this. It's not that I'm a lazy groomer. It's just that it keeps you at the same angle constantly. You can see what you're doing. And about dog number 20 or 25, you start getting a little tired too. But this actually holds you a little steadier when you do it. Actually, before you do this, you should take your dog out and move him. And see if you can video him, so much the better. And run it in slow motion and see what this feather's doing. And you're going to see this feather is going to do this with every step he takes. So after you finish trimming it, take him out and move him again. See what it's doing. Put him back on the table, keep trimming until it doesn't do that anymore, until that leg just moves straight forward and back. That is probably one of the biggest secrets of good grooming. See what it's going to look like when the dog's on the move.
And that's the nice thing about this popping technique is, that's going to duplicate that so you can see what's going to
Absolutely. And when that dog moves his foot, and sometimes I really don't mind them stomping around a little bit because that just keeps the hair going where it's going to go. If you could move up here a little further, thank you. Now I'm going to take some off the back of this dog too, but right now I'm just trying to get the sides straight. And that nice angle we put on the back of that hock, we're going to put the same angle on up here. This is not a sporting breed. We do not trim up to the button. You start at the back of the pad and round up. But you don't want all this hair hanging on the ground, because if it does, here again, he looks like he has flat feet. You want to make him look like he's up on his toes. Now, trimming from the front like this, you can put marks in a dog, so you have to be very careful. If you do put any marks in, come around to the side and take them off by using the popping. It will emphasize your mark, and you'll be able to smooth right over it. It's also very important you have a straight spine when you're trying to groom these dogs.
So you need like 10 people to...
That helps.
Or just one good one?
Well, a straight spine is especially good if you're doing a poodle. Otherwise, you have pom-poms in very peculiar positions, and they don't match. But the same thing happens when you're grooming a dog like this. You really have to have the left side match the right side. And therefore, you have to look at your dog from all angles as you're doing him. That looks pretty good. Comes down from the shoulder, but I have a shoulder and then I have a leg.
Does it make any difference for you if you groom from the foot to the shoulder to the foot?
Yeah, because I like to trim down. Trimming down makes the smoothest trim.
Transition.
Yeah, it really does. You can trim up, but trimming down looks better. So that's why I like to come from the top to the bottom. Anything you see from a different angle sticking out, remove. Okay, now from behind. When a dog moves, these feathers can come out here to the side and make it look the same way as the sides of the dog look. I think one of the most important things to learn in dog grooming is proportion. You don't want any part of the dog to be too big or too small in relation to the rest of the dog. And sometimes when they grow these massive quantities of fur, which is of course what you want them to do, it just makes the dog look unbalanced. Balance is everything. You don't want too big a head or too big a tail, too big feathers. You want the legs in proportion to the body in proportion to the head. Everything has to balance.
The front in proportion
To the rear. Oh, yes. I have seen a number of dogs, and in fact, that's what it means when you hear somebody say, yeah, he's a great-looking dog, but it looks like both ends belong on different dogs.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that it's a bad rear or a bad front. They just don't balance each other.
I see too many people leave too much hair on the fronts, and they're front heavy. It just throws the balance off.
Oh, absolutely. And it looks like they have short front legs, and then the back legs look too long. If you really want to know what to do and you haven't got a clue, sometimes this happens, feel what's underneath. That's what you're reproducing. Now, one of the things I like to do is I like to show the full, his elbow's actually up here, all the way up here. And this is the length of his leg. But if I leave this hair hanging over here, it looks like this is the length of his leg. So I want to show the full length of this leg. So what I do...
Without bringing that bottom line up.
Yeah, because I want to show, Newfies should have a good depth of chest. Very important in our breed. So what I'm going to do is trim. I'm going to make the rib cage separate from the leg. When you groom, you can never use too much comb. More comb, the better the groom. If you're trying to be in a hurry and avoid it, you'll regret it later. Now, another thing we do on Newfies, and I see this as a common mistake. People put schnauzer skirts on them. We don't. We follow the rib cage around. So what I'm going to do, this is a good technique to learn, scissor over comb. Your hairdresser knows it. But I can get a perfectly even groom when I'm doing this. Believe it or not, this is going to give me a broader looking Newfoundland. This rounding underneath, it gives me my depth, but it's also giving me my spring of ribs. Never forget this spot in here. A few times I've been in a hurry, and I see the dog gating in the ring, and here's this little peak of hair down there. Here again, I'm showing loin, rib cage. Now, if your dog happens to roll, and it's acceptable in our standard, what happens is his skin is loose and it's rolling like this. And the hair from down here comes up and opens up over the back like this as he gates, giving him a top line like this. This is kind of common in Newfoundland. So what you do, slide your fist back till it stops. Take this line right here on this side of your fist And you want to trim this out, shorten it up on your Newfie. This again will show you his loin, which is something you want to do, avoiding the watermelon look. On a Newfie, you actually want a short loin.
But if they keep trimming and trimming and trimming, they could accidentally create a long loin.
Oh, yes, they could. But then you also have the knee socks in here for fixing that. Now, this dog doesn't happen to roll, so I don't have to have a problem with that. But it says in the standard, the Newfoundland may exhibit a characteristic roll. All it is loose skin. You can kind of tell if your dog's going to roll or not if you grab his skin and do this. See, nothing moves. This is also good to the wonderful panagenic and conditioner we have in here, which is fantastic. Because if you have that very soft flyaway hair and it starts doing this, destroys your top line. And see, when I do this, it is a curve. It comes down into the leg, up here, and then into the rib cage. It's not an excessive curve, but it's not a straight line either. Now, probably you're not seeing this because I haven't trimmed the other side yet. And when I do, you'll see more of this. Length of belly hair seems to be very individualistic with the different lines. So it's one of the things you will most likely have to work on.
One of the other things I absolutely love about the way you groom is you brought that side hair where you can actually see the leg on top of that.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, you brought it just like you did on the front leg, which
Oh,
is
yes.
beautiful. So
You must see parts.
Yeah.
You don't want to, no,
I see everybody else just groom that right into the side coat.
yeah, no. This is why it is so important to study dog anatomy. If you don't know what they look like underneath, how are you going to know what to make them look like on top? But now you see your loin in here and your rear end assembly. And everything should blend. You shouldn't see any lines or cut marks or anything.
Like a duck's feathers.
Yeah, everything should blend. And then what you want to do is trim this dog 2 weeks before he goes to a show. I want to do the body work then, so that all the cut ends, all the blunt ends disappear, and it looks like he just grew this way. That's what they always used to tell me when I first started in Newfoundlands, and I wanted to know how to trim them. Oh no, he just grew this way.
That looks like velvet.
Well, that's due to the panagenic too, that beautiful shine and that nice texture it puts on the hair. I really love that. This is probably the #1 point on the dog where the hair totally differs from the way the dog grows. A dog does not have a chest that does this. The dog's chest does this. So that's what I want to see. He's got this long hair, usually, that hangs down here from under his chest, and it lays down like this on the insides of his legs. I want to get rid of that because I want to show the fact that he does have a chest. Actually, this is best done sitting. He says that too. Because you see how much more you can see of the chest. And this hair hanging down here. Okay, now you'll see this natural line that starts out here. Because my dogs had chests. Now, this is actually part of the feathers on the inside of the leg, which I haven't dealt with yet on this leg. And you want to do the same thing with the feathers on the inside of the leg as you do with the feathers on the outside of the leg, which is a nice straight line.
I see a lot of people avoid the inside.
Oh, no, 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 no. That judge looks at that dog coming right at him.
Right.
If the outside looks good and the inside's flying around, I really don't like monopod Newfoundlands. I like to see 2 front legs, not 1. Many of them only have 1 front leg. And here's one of the few places it's okay to leave a line on a Newf, because you have this hair blending into the leg hair. It's 2 things meeting at a right angle, so it's okay to show a line. Even on a Portuguese water dog, you'd smooth it out, but on a Newf, you can. And I'm afraid on a lot of Newfs, we have lost our prosternum, and it's not out in front of the points of the shoulder. This will make it look like it is, even if it isn't. To my way of thinking, a Newfoundland needs a prosternum. If he's going through the water, it's like a prow of a ship. It parts the water for him to swim. He's not a barge with a big flat front.
Where I see some people put their prosternums too high or too low, and it throws the dog off. But if I take 50% of the body, make that the furthest point out, then it makes them balance.
Okay, I see what you're talking about. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it works.
Can't.
If I go at a 90-degree angle, this is going to expose every hair that is a problem. See all
Okay.
the holes here and the high spots there?
Yeah?
So I can come in and tip this. And it's just a couple of hairs that I'm tipping.
Yeah?
And then I'll come over a little bit further and then see how transition from here to there.
Yeah.
And then now I can come in like this, take that off. I can come into where I want to blend this into here
Uh-huh.
and see high spot here, low spot there.
Yeah.
And so if I just take the tips of these, then this will be nice and plush and you won't have any of these things here.
Yeah.
So you just keep following this line all the way around, and anything that sticks up, you just take that tip off. And then I come over here, 90-degree angle, like this,
Uh-huh.
and then I see this stick up here,
Yeah.
and I take those tips off there. And then as you follow this around, it makes it absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it does. I like
Isn't that
it.
neat?
Uh-huh.
So, and that way, you don't have to have an artistic eye. All you have to do is comb it at 90 degrees
And
and
see
see
what
how
just-
there's holes there.
Okay.
So let's take the tip off of, if he's not moving, take the tips off of that. And then as we work our way over, I mean, look at the difference between that and that right
Yeah.
there. It just gives it
And well,
just
he's
perfect balance when you do that.
too heavy in the upper part of the neck right now.
Yeah, and then here, if I pull that over to this side completely
Yeah,
here, you'll
you can see the heaviness.
Right, and then you just take those tips off.
But it still has to be thin, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But at least-
I scissor first, then I thin.
Right.
Right.
Because that'll make it look natural.
Right.
Well, see,
See,
you
'cause-
want to smooth it
'Cause
first.
when you do
Right.
this gives somebody that doesn't even have an artistic eye,
Yeah.
they can see what's sticking up.
Right.
And when they do that, I mean, look at how nice and plush that is
Yeah.
right there. So,
Well, I love the look of the shoulder you have. You know,
Yeah.
that's absolutely
see,
gorgeous.
like here, to transition
Yeah.
this,
I gotta
I
take
go
more
at a
of that
90-degree
up.
angle, And then I come in and take these high spots
Yeah,
here, and I would transition this into that like there. And it just makes it so simple. You can even do that like on the body here. You go here, it's like, nah, it's not bad. So then you move over a little bit more and it just plushes that out. So
yeah.
I love doing
I was gonna say, one of the things, there's always a fold of the skin down here. You never want to show more than 6 inches of it. If you have that fold coming all the way down here, it'll never hit the same place twice. People with small hands are at definite disadvantage with dogs with large bone. Can I ask, when you did that, you were combing it this way?
90 degrees.
Okay,
like
can you
so.
do it the other way?
Yes, you can.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. I like the point of shoulder. That makes a nice spot. Ear time. First thing we do is edge the ear. Ear should come to the inside corner of the eye, and which is exactly what this one does. The leather on the ear should come to the inside corner of the eye. So what you want to do is groom this ear as is. It's correct. If the ear were a little too short, I'd leave a little more hair here. If the ear were a little too long, which can be a problem in our breed,
Then you accidentally fit too close.
no, actually what happens is the ear turns like this because it is long, and I take this very short and just start the ear there and work it up. And it's not a perfect fix, but when you look at them from the side, this whole part disappears. So when you have the dog stacked, it looks really good. If you have a really good judge, they're going to find everything anyway, so. And I edge the inside of the ear as well as the outside, the front, I should say, as well as the back. And you want a nice triangle because that's the shape the ear should be. And I start it, when I comb out the head, I want to see a round ball from the front, or as close to that as you can get. Not all that way, but. So therefore, I want to leave hair longer on the top of the ear and graduate it down to the bottom. Another thing you can do is insert your comb and press against the dog's head. This A holds the dog still, and B makes the hair stick up slightly, so you can get a nice smooth cut on it. Otherwise, they're flipping that ear all over the place, and it's very easy to cut the dog, which you don't want to do. the next thing I want to do is separate my neck and my head. Because if the neck is as wide as the head, you sort of lose both pieces. They kind of merge into one. And I want to see a separate neck and head. Now we have ear and neck. After I scissor, then I'm going to take a mat breaker, which only takes out undercoat, and lay this down. When you hold a tool like this, you hold it as light as you do a scissor. You should always be able to pull a tool out of somebody's hand. Let the tool do the work for you. Don't try and muscle it. Now you can see how this is slow, but it's starting to turn into a neck. A Newfoundland shouldn't have a long, spindly neck. It should be a good, substantial neck, but it should be a neck. If you're retrieving things in the water, you have to be able to hold your head out of the water. Okay, the head. Now, the head should have been brushed forward when you dried. You want a nice, round,
All right, so if you have a situation where you want to create a round head and you don't have the artistic eye, the easiest way to do this is to take the wide part of the three-way comb and comb everything over to a 90-degree angle like this to one side. Now, when you comb everything over, you're going to see some hairs that are just barely sticking up on this side right here. And what you're going to do is just take the tips of that. Then you're going to comb the hair forward like this, and you're going to take just the tips of that, and then you're going to come in a little bit higher here, and you're going to take just the tips of that. Then you're going to bring the hair over to the other side like this, and you can now, without turning your body, you can flip these over, because these are flippers, and you can take just the tips. See, like right here, there's a hole right there. But by going like this, you can see some spots where you want to leave hair and just take the tips. So when this hair fluffs up, flipping this over to this side here like this, that makes the perfect round head without having to do any guesswork with that, because you're only taking the tips of that. See, and like right here, by going over to the 90 degree, you can see that we wouldn't have taken anything in that spot right there, where he could have just been pawing at that or something like that. Plus, we haven't really groomed that side yet anyway. Okay.
Okay, this is a horse shape for horse's nose, whiskers on a horse's nose. Hold it very lightly. It's a razor blade, but it's well guarded. Stop. And all you do is slide it lightly over the whiskers. It's much safer than using a pair of scissors, especially if you have a dog that's a little fussy about it. He's really very good, but stop. You always have little ones along here, under your chin. Now you see, as I trim, I'm actually moving my comb slightly forward. So no two cuts are in exactly the same spot. Then you comb it all back. And you realize you need to do a little up here. you'll find they grow a shawl, which is longer, straighter hair here. If you shorten this hair, it will stand up better and look like it belongs to the rest of the back as opposed to a flat area here. You want a perfect blend from the neck down into the withers. The reason we cut down on this like this and have it laying down, if you pick this up and cut it all evenly this way, it doesn't come out even. You have to just have it laying down and take out the hottie spots. Now here again, I suppose you could turn, comb side to side
Yeah, at a 90-degree angle.
at a 90-degree angle and tip off anything that's high. Yep, let me comb it back. And indeed, it lays perfectly. Okay, the next thing we need to do is the tail. This dog has a big, beautiful, gorgeous tail. It's too big for the dog. In proportion, I'd like it just a little bit smaller. So what I would do, comb it out thoroughly. And remember, a Newfoundland tail is just a long-haired version of an otter tail, which means it's not perfectly round, it's an oval. So it's a little longer on the bottom than it is on the top.
What about length of tail? Where should the tip come in?
Now the bone in the tip of the tail, not the fur, but the bone, which is right here, at the end of the bone, if you can see it, should come to the point of the hock, which it does perfectly on this dog. And that's another thing you can, if the tail is too long, and I have seen some that are too long, you can blunt this. If the tail is too short, make it thinner. A long, thin piece looks longer than a fat piece. Again, a good judge will measure it, and they will know exactly.
A couple of things about top lines, and this dog has an amazing top line, so we're not really going to be able to do anything to fix it because it's already there. But if you want to check your work and check how the top line is working, all you have to do is brush everything over to one side like this, and this will tell you a story. You want this to be a straight line going like that. If it is not a straight line, if you have a hole somewhere or it's sticking way out here, wherever it's sticking out far like this is going to be a high spot when your dog is gaiting. So the best way to do that is to pull everything to the side, and then anything on the sticking out, you can just go ahead and take your thinning shears, knock off the tips, bring that back, and then that'll lay down perfectly. Now, if you do have a spot that you need to work to get a little bit of volume in, then what we're going to do is we're going to add some of the texture crystals. We have an applicator brush now where we can come in and we can apply that right where we need it. So the texture crystals have to be activated with a boar or boar nylon brush. You can't use a pin brush, you can't use a slicker, you can't use a comb. The reason for that is because it activates these little teeny tiny crystals right into where the cuticle is. Now, the rule of thumb is if it's a medium to long coat, you use boar nylon. If it's a medium to short coat, you can use regular boar. Now, even on a black dog, when you apply the light colored or white crystals, don't worry, it's not going to turn your dog into a white dog or a Lancier in this case. You're just going to brush these in and then come back with any of the remaining crystals with your dryer and blow out any of the remnants so there's absolutely nothing in your coat when you're showing your dog. That way, nobody will feel anything whatsoever when they put their hands on the dog. Now, these crystals are designed to come out. They'll fall right out of your coat within 6 to 8 hours. So you don't have to worry about washing these out. After you blow that out, then you can come in this way, lift this coat up wherever you want, take your hand down the dog, and now you have a perfect top line, just like that. And that's how you use the texture crystals. Baby. So now we have a situation where we want to go ahead and put a little lift on the head. And again, with this dog, this is not the right dog to demo on because it's correct, so, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. Okay, so we apply a little bit onto the brush, like so. Then make sure you put your crystals away so you don't dump them all over the floor. Yeah. Now, there's nothing in the crystals that are harmful, but it is a little abrasive, so you don't want them to breathe it in and you don't want to get it into their eyes. So we just kind of like pop this and work this into the head there. And he's like, ooh, what is that? This new applicator brush is fantastic because you can get the crystals right where you want them when you do this. But you just work this into the areas that you want lift on. Now, even though it says texture crystals, it's not something that is going to give texture to a dog that not supposed to have texture. For instance, if we put this on a Havanese, it's not going to magically give them texture, it's going to give them manageability. And as soon as I brush these texture crystals in, I'm just going to line brush this forward, starting from the front, working my way back. You're going to notice that this hair will just stand straight up, perfectly straight. I didn't mean for you to stand up perfectly straight. Okay, so I brushed that side. Now I'm going to come in and work these crystals forward like this. And again, this is a boar nylon brush to activate these crystals. And this hair is going to stick straight up, just like we had mousse in it, but there's going to be absolutely nothing, any product whatsoever in this coat. Okay, then I'm going to come in with my dryer. That's another nice thing I love about this dryer is it's just, you can work it down so it's just a light little puff of air. And make sure there's no product in this hair whatsoever. And it's always nice if your dog stands still like a statue, like this one does. Okay. Then you can come in with your comb. And just brush this back up again. And it's going to stand straight up, just like you had mousse inside of it, but there's going to be no feel of anything in this coat at all. Definitely better than hairspray. Because with hairspray, you're going to have to wash this out, otherwise it's going to break coat. But with the texture crystals, I mean, look at the angle of this hair is standing perfectly straight up. You don't need any mousse, you don't need any hairspray, nothing, even on a windy day. And if you want, if you may get a little static electricity on longer coated dogs, you can take a little tiny mist of the hydrating spray take your comb or brush and work that into the coat. But perfect, standing straight up, great texture, no product in there whatsoever. Okay?
Good. Well, first we're going to use the crystals on the short hairs of the front of the legs, because with hairspray they would break the coat. You would have to take them out every night, keep the coat from breaking. With these, they are out. They won't break coat. And I use it on the short hairs of the back of the leg. We'll see that. Let me put a little in here too, just for the heck of it, because these things never stand up the way you want them to. Into the knee socks. Not a technical dog term, but all the Newfoundland people know what they are. Okay. These are obviously worth their weight in gold, so we will close them. Thank you. Okay, now we take the brush, work them in. Oh, this is going to look magnificent. I love it. Stand. Ooh, I like this. We used to put hairspray on this. Now we don't have to anymore. Yay! Now take the blow dryer. Oh, this looks fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, we'll turn this off. And a comb. Pardon?
How thick that coat is.
Oh, it does. It does, it does, it does. Not only feels thick, it looks thick. Look at that, it's beautiful. And this is going to be the proof in the pudding back here. Oh yeah. And if you have a tail that isn't big enough, this does not count for that. Anyway, if you do, put some crystals in that. Like if you've had a bitch that's just coming off a litter or something that you're bringing into the ring, does wonders. I used them on a bitch at the National Specialty who was just coming off a litter, and she did a very nice win of Best of Opposite. These things are absolutely magic. Okay, Riker, you ready to go out and win a Best in Show? And that is how you groom a dog.